Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to Money, Sex, and God. This is Genevieve. Money, Sex, and God is a place for us to explore and discover taboo topics that you're not used to really dive into conversations that may feel uncomfortable so that we can find the light and the truth on the other side of it. And each week I bring on someone that I really love, I really adore their work, an expert in the field of sexuality or the field of spirituality. And today I'm really, really excited to introduce someone that I've known for a while in the world of kink. He's been doing this work for decades, and though you're only 25, and and someone who I really admire the way in which he navigates the world of BDSM and kink through a spiritual lens. He's an expert in this field and someone that you're really going to get a lot out of. So please say hello, comment, tell us where you're dropping in from, and hashtag replay if you're watching the replay so we know that you're on. We'll try to answer questions no matter if you're watching it live now or later. But I'd love to introduce my guest for today's show, Orpheus Black.
Hey, how are you?
So good. Thank you for being on. I'm honored. I'm honored to have you, and thank you for being here with my audience to give them.
I was waiting for the applause track.
I know. I'm gonna work on that.
How the ship are you running here?
I'm pretty low tech. It's amazing you can run a successful business with nothing these days. So tell them a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go into a little embodiment and demo as people come on.
Sure. My name is Orpheus Black. I've been in the business of BDSM for almost 20 years. I'm a pro-dominant. I also engage in spiritual BDSM, which is kind of my own vein of BDSM. And I'm a Buddhist. And I also subscribe to African religions and phenomenology. And so bringing significance into the lives of the people that I deal with is my foremost calling. I'm also registered as an expert in the field of breath play in the state of California, and which is one of the skills that I teach the most. I also do private sessions, work with couples, and yeah, just kinky.
Yay, kinky.
I could have just kept scrolling, you know.
I know, I could just give you the list. And I also do this and I do this.
Give you the Vanna White.
Yeah, exactly. For those of you that know my work at Essential Reclamation, one of the things that we really work on is creating wholeness in our sexuality so that we're not just doing Tantra all day long and not merging other aspects. We're not just doing romantic dates all day long and not giving the dirty, naughty side of ourselves a chance to breathe. So I bring in, you guys have seen over the past couple of weeks, we've had varied people, and it's because without our ability to drop into all of the layers of our sexuality, we can't become fully whole, right? And fully expressed. And so I'm really,
as Young said,
go ahead.
I was going to say, as Young said, you got to explore the light and the dark.
Yeah, because it's all one thing, right? It's a big circle. So that's what we're creating here.
Multifaceted.
So comment if you guys are watching, if you guys are really excited about kinky stuff, if you're excited to have Orpheus here. We have a professional pro-dom here on the channel. That is exciting. And those of you that know me know that I did pro-dom 10 years ago in New York, which is the beginning of my sexual awakening. So that's where I know you from. All right, so people are starting to come on. I would love to drop into a little bit of an embodiment practice. And those of you that are watching can be me with me. Okay, so there's a lot of women on right now, and I know a lot of them, and so they're gonna love to be in my role. So imagine that what Orpheus is saying to me, doing to me, that you guys are also receiving the same thing, just to give yourself the ability to drop into your body as well. And we're just going to do a quick demo, and it's really meant to get out of the mind into the body for all of us so we can all kind of become cohesive, and then we'll start playing in questions. Okay, so take it away.
Thank you. So what I'd like you to do is I want you to close your eyes. Just be in your body for a moment. And then I want you to take a slow, deep inhale and hold it. Now I want you to slowly exhale and hold it. I want you to breathe normally. Now, you have hands. Whose hands are those?
They're yours, sir.
And what can I do with those hands?
Whatever you desire, sir.
I would like you to take your hands and slowly run them up the nape of your neck. Caress yourself lovingly, as if they were my hands. I want you to go down your chest, into your lap, across to your thighs. Slowly, let my hands run all over your thighs. Caress them as if they were my hands. Now slowly bring your hands back up. I want you to bring your hands to your lips. As if they were my hands on your lips. And I want you to take your hands and run them over your shoulders. Lovingly caress across your throat. As if they're my hands. And back down your body. And then let your hands just rest in your lap. Putting slight pressure. And now I want you to come back to your breath. Take a big deep breath in and hold it. Exhale and hold it. Inhale and hold it. Exhale and hold it. Breathe normally. Slowly open your eyes, let go of your breath. You did amazing. Thank you.
Oh my God, it's so good. Thank you so much. I know I told you that was for my audience, but that was really for me. How can I get a little taste of Orpheus magic on me?
You know, I used to have a sub who lived really far away. I think she was in New York, and we would play this game, My Hands Are Your Hands. And it was very interesting and was really challenging for me as a control freak to have her control my hands once. That process of letting go and slipping into a role of following as opposed to leading was really eye-opening for me. And I could see how powerful this process can be when it's refined, you know, because the only limit to your imagination, and I think that that's what BDSM often lacks, is the imagination needed to create circumstances and situations that really elevate us as human beings, not just as sexual beings.
Tell me more about that. What do you know, I was going to ask you, my first question, and you're kind of into it right now already, is why kink? What's the purpose? Why should people play in this arena? What's it going to give them? What are some of the gifts?
You know, I think that BDSM really speaks to the primal. It really accesses the part of us that is not restricted by societal norms or taboos, by conditionings or anything else. It really gets us in our body. And that's a place that we're not used to being, because every time we dip into our primal, and I like to use the analogy of a dog handler and a dog. The handler is the societal restrictions that wants to train and condition, right, and adhere to those norms. And the primal is that part that wants to run and be free and be in their nature, right? When the container is set, and a person feels safe to be in their human animal, they're free to explore themselves in a way that they probably hadn't since they were a child or very young, when social
Mhm.
conditioning hasn't really solidified and taken hold. So in that place, you can be and do exactly what your animal wants. It's going to satiate all the calling. And it's a type of freedom that we don't get to experience very much.
I love that. I love that, that primal desire. And I talk a lot about deconditioning from
Yeah.
society in our sexuality and how huge that is. And I found a lot of that release first being on the more dominant side, and then now switching to being a switch and exploring the submission. I'm curious how your dominance developed over time. How did that start to become a part of you, part of your life?
You know, I've been this person for a long time.
We should compare stories of childhood.
Yeah, exactly. Um, I believe that everyone has a masculine and a feminine. They have a dominance and a submission.
Yes.
And what happens is we tend to lean into one energetic more than the other.
Mm.
And so when I was a very young child, say 13, 14, I had a girlfriend who said, don't ask me for anything. Don't make any requests. You tell me what you want me to do and I'll do it. The day you make a request is the day I leave. And she
Huh.
used to sit at my feet and she used to rub my back and she did all these things. And we were very young in the space. I don't want to even explore why she knew how to do all this, but
Right.
she pushed me into this role where I could explore this dominance. And I loved it. I never wanted to be back in that other space.
Mm.
And so even if I didn't have the vocabulary for BDSM, I would still be in this role within the context of my intimate relationships. And I always have been. I've never met someone who brought out the desire to be in my submission. Uh, and I
Yes.
don't care to necessarily explore that, but I do believe that it's a chemistry.
Yeah.
You know, you meet someone and they invoke this thing into you,
Right.
out of you. And then it becomes a thing with you in that relationship. I don't believe that people are like dominant all the time or submissive all the time, right?
Right.
Because you wouldn't survive. Um, but it's definitely something that comes from within because of something on the outside.
I love that. And it feels to me like what you're saying is that you meet a person and there becomes a dance of polarity, right? Of figuring
Yes.
out what poles do we want to play in with the two of us and how are we going to play here. And I think a lot of people play in the lighter polarities, and BDSM
Hmm.
and kink can give us the ability to play in that more primal dark
Yes.
place, as well as playing in the dominant or more controlled surrendered space as well. I love that.
You know, and there's honestly, I think people get a little perturbed when I say this, but I don't believe that there's freedom without structure,
Yes.
right?
Right.
You really can't explore your sexuality without a safe structure in place, or it just becomes kind of recklessness. And
Mm,
so oftentimes we don't explore because we don't have a safe container. We
mm,
see that a lot when we work with couples.
mm.
A wife will say, I want to explore this, but I don't want to explore my husband because I know all his faults. I don't believe he can hold the container.
Mm.
And so what I like to say is, in this way, I need to teach him how to be a better handler,
Right.
how to handle her animal in a way that's safe and sane and constructive and beneficial to her exploring her nature.
Right.
Right.
Because
And
yeah.
I'm using gender terms just because,
Right.
for the sake of brevity.
Right. And that will then bring her, which I'm sure you agree with me on, like the dominant, the handler, right, can then
Hmm.
bring their submissive into a place of higher consciousness, into a place of more fully developed self, into a oneness, a wholeness. Um,
Hmm.
and then and that's kind of why we want to, if that's being asked of us, why we want to learn to cultivate that dominance, because it can really serve not just ourselves but our partners as well.
And if you don't feel that you can be a dominant with your partner, what you can do is learn how to create a safe container where people can explore themselves in a
Right.
space of safety and serenity. In the same way, say a mentor creates a safe learning environment for a mentee, right? I don't necessarily have to dictate or mandate or direct. I can just create this container where a person can be free to do whatever they want to do or be whoever they want to be in a safe space,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So for me, there's different levels of doing this, but they all revolve around leadership. Are you a good leader? Can you provide good leadership? And for me, that is definitely number one. That is the foundation for everything.
I joke a lot that the way that I created two successful businesses is through the training that I had as a pro dom, right? Learning how to lead, learning how to hold space, learning how to understand what my client wanted when, like, and how to maneuver around that and provide for them the experience that they're craving, that their body needs to fully surrender and let go and be in their aliveness. The same thing. I mean,
It definitely is.
It's a highly useful skill, right? And I think that there's not a lot of people that can walk around that know how to really establish that that it's an energy of safety more than anything. So can you speak to the energy? What is it? What is it not? Let's start with that.
Was it? It's not overbearing. It's not self-centered.
Thank you.
You know, a lot of times what happens is the media markets this idea that a dominant or a dominatrix is about self-gratification and using another person to gain that thing. That's actually a fetish. That is not the role in the relationship. The role in the relationship is a facilitator. I'm here to facilitate someone else's experience. And because of our dynamic and because there's reciprocity in that relationship, I will receive whatever it is that I need when it's my turn to be facilitated in the way that I need, right? And that's a separate container that happens. And that's why I said it's not about dominance or submission, it's about holding the container. So for me, when we move into the energetics of, let's say, receiving and giving as opposed to dominance and submission, when it's time for me to give, then I have to facilitate a place where they can sit and receive.
Right.
Then when it's time for me to receive, they create a space where I can sit and receive. You see what I'm saying? There's always a juxtaposition of who's receiving and who's giving that's outside the narrative of demanding. I demand that you do this. I demand that you be this. I demand that you address me.
Right.
There are no demands, right? The easiest thing to happen in the development when a person's developing is that their path gets sidetracked because a person becomes a crutch for their sexuality. What do I mean? Well, I wouldn't have done this thing if you hadn't told me to do it, even though I wanted to do it, right? I want to crawl. But you have to make me. Well, if you want to crawl, I have a safe container where there's no judgment, where you won't be ridiculed, where I won't look at you differently, where I'll totally respect you, and you can do it safely here. So go ahead and crawl whenever you're ready. That forces a person to be in their desires, to ask for what they desire, or to lean into it on their own, of their own accord, right? As opposed to waiting for me to do, tell them to do what it is exactly that they want to do. There's actually a haiku that I love, and it says, what is it? She wants me to love her the way she would love her if she were me.
Right. That's right.
and that happens in BDSM. It's like, oh, I want you to tell me to crawl, and I want you to tell me to beg, and I want you to tell me to do all the things that I like. And it becomes a problem if I can't know those desires because they haven't been voiced.
Right.
So I'm creating a container where a person can speak to their desires.
Yes, exactly. And where, I always say the submissive wants to submit. They're already ready. They're just waiting for the space to let go. And so I love to watch in a situation. I can watch the body and watch the energy of the submissive and watch when to dance with them. And that's the artistry and the skill of it, right? That's kind of once you're past the basics of setting the container of like, how do we dance within those realms so that they feel like I'm meeting them. I'm seeing where they are, where they need to totally relax and let go. And I'm meeting them right there and that edge. So.
The first skill that a person needs to learn is active voyeurism. Active voyeurism is very important because the observer interacts with the object through observation, thereby changing the object. Imagine how people's behavior changes when they know they're being watched.
Exactly.
Very simple. It's very simple, and it's a very underrated skill. So for me, when I say, and when I take a seat and I have a person stand in front of me, and I say, show me what you want me to see.
Right.
Right? In the way that you want to show it. And it's amazing how people undress for me as opposed to how they would when they're in their bedroom, right? There's like a trail of clothes left from the door to the, to the thing. But I'm getting this erotic kind of show that's kind of demure, that's kind of vulnerable, that really speaks to some insecurity, but is absolutely beautiful because it's for me. And because I am the observer, I am a unique individual. This will never happen again with anyone else because this is how they want to expose themselves to me. This is how they want me to see them.
Yeah. And you're activating on a very energetic level, a part of themselves that craves to be seen in that space, which is the beauty. Like when I'm in my submissive glory, it's like, oh my goodness, this person is seeing this part of myself, this naughty part or this vulnerable part or this dirty girl part, or I like to go into humiliation. So like, that's where I go. But to be seen in that and for it to be okay and loved and nurtured is like the most freeing thing. It's reclaiming these darker parts of ourselves that we hide in conditioned society, which is just a joy.
I had a client, I did this with a client, and she was an artsy kind of woman and very reclusive. And a lot of our scenes didn't involve touch, right? And what she did was she opened the curtains so that the morning light came in, and she sat, and then she showed me her scars because those are the things that she wanted me to see. She wanted me to see her pains, and her experiences, and she wanted to share them with me. And it was such an emotional yet cathartic thing that, I mean, I was literally trying to hold back the physical manifestation of my pain, of my anxiety, of everything. I'm trying to hold the container, but I so wanted to just go over there and just hold her, right? But that's not what she was here for. And it really resonated with me and affected me on a level that I had never been affected before. And so her scene became about scar worship, about me addressing each scar and touching each scar and each place that she had experienced something that she wanted integration around. And it was a deeply spiritual thing. So when people come to me as a dominant, they're also coming to me as a facilitator, as a healer. And that's where the spiritual nature starts coming in around integration, because it's one frame to look at something as I'm giving pain and this is perverse, as opposed to this is a mortification of the flesh. This is a process of healing and transformation, right? Jesus was flogged, and now my partner's being flogged.
Right.
Same act, right? The intention is different. And what we're trying to attain through this process is different. So creating intention and setting intention in my container is very important. That this is an act of transformation, that this is an act of integration, that this is going to be a process of release, whatever it is. Framing that, setting that, and going into that space, to me, is paramount. Right?
That's beautiful. I'm feeling that, and I'm feeling all of the moments, when I'm in the DS context with lovers and just in the pro work, the level of love and intimacy, people don't people don't know it until they're in it, like how much, like when I'm tied upside down by my ankles, like the
Right.
level of trust and surrender and like vulnerability and intimacy with those partners, is unlike anything that I can get outside of the kink realm, which is such a beauty. There's such a beauty in that, to go to that depth. It's just amazing. Yeah.
You have to find the beauty in what we quote unquote consider ugly,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
If it's not challenging our ideas of what is beautiful and what is profane, what is pleasure and what is pain, then I don't feel that I'm growing as a human being,
Right.
right? Pain is a sensation just like any other, right?
Exactly. Right.
And if you let go and you allow it to wash over you, it will leave, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pain, like pleasure, is a mile marker. It is a place to say that this is a moment of significance. This is dropping into a space in your life that you can always come back to,
Mm-hmm.
especially if it's a very pleasurable thing.
Right.
Pleasure, that pleasurable and pleasure, two different things. You can
Mm.
do lots of things can be pleasurable. It doesn't mean that they feel good, right?
Right. Right, right. Yeah. And there's a, kind of like yoga, the way that I can, even in, I'm thinking back to the scene we did together. There are times that when I'm in a space where I need to fully relax or fully release or feel like I can stay with it. You did a lot of work with me on like, just like holding things that I didn't
Mhm.
want to hold. I'll go back to that and my nervous system will remember those moments. And then in real life, I can then give myself like, no, you know how to do this. Your nervous system actually
Mhm.
can do this. And I
Mhm.
also love that on the flip side, in the dominant space, to be able to, step in stage in front of thousands of people and say, I can do this because I've held
Mhm.
space for a woman breaking down in front of me, showing me her scars. I
Mhm.
got this. And
Yeah.
so there's a practice there of practicing for real life almost within the context of the scene, which is
Yeah.
fucking awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And I like how you frame that as being holding something that I didn't know if I can hold,
Yeah.
because, and that's why submission is often a pathway to dominance,
Mm-hmm.
as a pathway to learning how to be a good facilitator, because you have a unique understanding of what it means to be in this position. You can more than empathize, but say, I've been in that place and I understand the mental and psychological and emotional barriers around this. And I also know how freeing it can be. And so you are able to say with better instincts, maybe this person can hold it a little bit longer, or maybe I should have them not be in this space so long, or
Exactly.
you know what I mean, as
Yeah.
opposed to people who have not and are just going through a list of things that pro doms do, and
All
or a
right.
list of their kinks, or you know what I mean, or just trying to gratify their own sexuality.
Mm-hmm. So a question that I know is going to come up, I think it's already come up, um, is how do people start? Like now, so you and I, like, I mean, I was having Medusa fantasies at 6 years old. So like I've been in this for a long time, but people that are, been married for 20 years and all of a sudden she wants to start becoming submissive, right? And she
Mhm.
wants her husband to all of a sudden become dominant. I get this a lot and I have my ideas, but I'm curious,
Me too. Yeah.
where would you start with this couple, that supposed couple?
Well, first of all, if you're asking yourself this question, then you've already started. You know what I mean? Because all fantasy, all action is starting in the mind, and we have to remember that everything that happens outside of you is an external manifestation of an internal process,
Right.
right? And so you have to start with yourself.
Mhm.
What is it that you want to do with your partner specifically, right? When you can answer that question, then you can begin your journey. Because what happens, I find in a lot of cases, and I'm going to genderize the hell out of this, although
This
it's not relative to that. Uh,
okay.
the female bodied partner will say, I really want to explore kink and do all these freaky things, and my partner either doesn't know how to or doesn't want to. And when I talk to him separately, he's like, it's not that I don't know how to, it's just I don't know what they're asking for specifically.
Exactly. Right.
So even if I don't know how to do it now, it doesn't mean I can't learn, but I don't know as I'm learning. I'm behind on the curve, right? I'm starting at 45 or 50,
Mhm.
you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I have to learn some very specific skills to start satiating it. So if you can give me a direction, I can begin that process of learning, or we can begin this process of learning together. So I say, take out a list and explore your fantasies. And I like to say, especially your roller sex. Your roller sex is when you're masturbating and all the stuff that pops up in your mind. You
Roller
know the go-to.
Shut up.
You start scrolling through your roller sex. What's happening in those kinky spaces? What is your role, or what is the role of the other person? So you
Mm,
say, here's what I would do. Here's what I think they would do. And then you go into it. And then when you're ready, create a safe space, bring it up to your partner and say, these things in particular are what I'm interested in exploring,
mm,
right?
mhm,
Do you have an interest in exploring these things with me?
mm.
Now, do not expect the person to say yes,
Right.
right? Especially if they've never done it before, because it's scary,
Yeah.
right? Because there's going to be some judgment, there's going to be some thoughts, and there's going to be some feelings of inadequacy, okay? Because all these things are going to be retroactive. I've been with you 20 years and you've never brought this up before. You know what I mean? Like, now you want to do it. What's going on? Our whole life has been a sham.
Right, right,
But if
right.
you can bring it down to, this is what I'd like to explore. This is not a have to, but it's a couple ideas to kind of, speak to a different part of me. Would you like to explore it with me? I think most people would be game for it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how I broach the issue.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thanks for that. I'm sure that really helped a lot of people. People are commenting. They love it. So thank you. Um, I'm one of the things that I teach a lot is sovereignty in your sexuality, right? So
Hmm.
you kind of spoke to it a little bit. And I always tell people starting in kink the same thing, like how fully developed is your fantasy? Is it, because that's one of the fucking superpowers about being kinky. Like
Hmm.
we have fantasy ability that I don't see in people that don't play in kink. Like I can get myself turned on like that, right? Because
Hmm.
of the fantasy roller sex, as you say. And
Yeah.
so begin with developing that, start in your self pleasure practice, become really attuned to it, become full in that, even like make it
Hmm.
hot enough for yourself that you're like, I am already good. And so then the pressure is off. And then if
Hmm.
they want to dance with you, cool. But remember, it comes back to you starting within you and your own sovereignty of, like I have blood play fantasies. I love blood play. I've had blood play fantasies forever. It is very unusual for me to find someone that will let me make them bleed or vice versa. Like that's this very like succinct kink. I know, Orpheus. I know. I'll come out to LA soon. But it's rare, and so I get to give that to myself daily, right? I play through my Rolodex and allow my fantasy to really get myself there. Especially because
Right.
I don't know if you agree with me here, but in kink, I feel like a lot of it is the fantasy more than the actual act of the thing,
Oh yeah. Oh
right?
yeah.
Like the context is the thing.
Yeah. Exactly. And, sometimes what's hot is the idea that this is something that we want to explore. Just
Yeah.
the idea
Yeah.
of exploring it becomes really hot. And it's like, oh man, this person really wants to satiate me. This is our normal sex is going to go to another level.
Right.
You know what I mean? What we're doing already, because there's a new layer that's been open, a new path to follow.
Mm,
Uh, Actually, in my spirituality, there's a word called obatuasa, and obatuasa means the opening of another area of your path. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that you have to take it, but you celebrate the idea that another path is open.
mm,
You honor the idea that another path is open.
mm.
And for me, that is always something. So just because it's open doesn't mean I have to take it, but I do need to acknowledge it, sit with it, and pay homage to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And develop, like love it and accept it. Bring it
Yeah,
into your being. Like let it be you.
yeah, yeah.
Let it
It's another door. Again, you don't have to open all the doors,
right.
but another door just opened up. So every time you have a choice, every time you get another choice, that's another opportunity to explore freedom.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm. Freedom. I love that. That's it, right? That's freedom. That's
yeah.
what we're doing. Sex can give us that. That's the practice. And um, it just makes me think about all the times I've done fear play or pain. You spoke about pain a little bit, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and the alchemy that can happen, that I learned could happen when I can orgasm now from pain, right? To
Mm-hmm.
take
Mm-hmm.
that amount of pain and transmute it and alchemize it, like there's such magic there. It's like,
Yeah,
where else can I bring that in my life, right? Everywhere.
yeah. And and then that's just the tip of the iceberg, because then I actually do magic. You know what I mean? I'm actually a magician. I'm actually in that world, and that's another element that can be brought in. So for me, I try and bring every aspect of myself into my play, into my intimacy, into my sexuality. And
Mm.
so, I've done like sex on fiery pentagrams and you know
I'm
what I
all
mean?
about sex magic. So is my
You know what I
audience.
mean?
So we're
All
good.
about it. And I mean, I've done when you all you need is the space in the container and a little imagination, and it becomes a thing. And any deviation from the norm is kink,
Yes.
right? Any deviation from the norm. It does not have to be a specific thing.
Mm.
BDSM is a very specific branch of exploration. It's exploration of bondage, discipline, sadism, and masochism. You do not have to do BDSM in order to engage in a kink.
Yes.
Like I say, sex magic, according to societal norms, would be a kink or a perversion,
Right.
right?
Right.
So you can make it whatever you want, but trying to integrate more aspects of myself is my goal, to be fully integrated before I die, a
Mm.
fully realized and explored human being,
Mm.
right? So again, when I'm doing ritual offering and the body of my partner becomes the altar with which I give reverence,
Mm.
that's a wonderful thing for me. Yes, she's probably bound in the process, but still. I
That's
I
more
didn't
for
want my
her though.
altar to get up and leave, right?
And that's
Because
also it, like how beautifully you play in those darker places. Like I think so many of us walk around scared of, I see this a lot, like a lot of women will say, I'm afraid of my own power. I get that one a lot with women. Or I'm afraid, like, what if he hurts me? Or what if, I don't know, whatever, like they have these fear stories of all these, or what if it's going to overtake me? And we're so afraid of this dark place in other people that when we get to play with it and bring it into our nervous system and realize that it's just play, like it's this big game that we get
mm-hmm.
to just create joy and pleasure from, then we can release our fear. And that's
Yeah,
what, to me, that's what sexual awakening is the ability to dissolve fear and live freely in play. And you can get it through all angles, as is being referenced here, like kink, tantra, like I don't care what you do. It's how
mm-hmm.
well can you release the fear.
Yeah. You know what? I would put this caveat on it. I
Thanks.
think when a person acknowledges that their fear is what makes it hot, that the fear is what's their attraction, then they can totally embrace it.
Totally.
Because, if kink was like something that everybody did, I wouldn't want to do it.
Exactly.
You know what I
Totally.
mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
that's the thing that makes you think about it late night. It's the thing that
Yes.
drives you. It's our divergence from the norm. And people say you can't do that, or the fear of judgment, or what if everybody finds out? All those things activate your nervous system, get you moist, get you erect, and embracing that, harnessing it, and guiding that is very important.
Mm.
I like play in public spaces where a
Mm-hmm.
person doesn't necessarily know that we're doing this thing. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, the orgasm that comes out of that, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that you can't really replicate again. It's a moment that you have to be very present and very in that space. So
Mm.
for me, I love it. Embrace the fear.
Yeah.
Lean into it. Let submerge yourself into it. Be scared. There's nothing wrong with being scared.
Yeah, exactly. I did a live last week, yesterday, no, last week. And I remember there was a moment where I got scared, where I was almost turned all the way upside down, and the ropes were starting to get painful on my body. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I'm afraid. I'm
Hello, 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 hello. Hello, hello. What's up?
Hit your nose.
That's why I said I want to. You want me to love me, you go to martial arts. Don't want to like